What if the most reliable sign of genius isn't a staggering IQ score, but a specific, persistent type of anxiety? Imagine a mind that operates on a completely different level, one that doesn't just see the world, but perceives the intricate systems running beneath it. We've all been taught to associate genius with quick answers, effortless memory, and superhuman confidence. But what if that entire picture is wrong, or at the very least, woefully incomplete? What if the very mental processes that enable profound insight are also the ones that generate a constant low-level hum of existential dread? This isn't a comfortable thought because it complicates our romanticized idea of intellectual brilliance. It suggests that their greatest gift might also be their heaviest burden. In this video, we are going to pull back the curtain on the true psychology of individuals with extremely high intelligence. We will move beyond the superficial habits and popular myths you've heard 100 times before. Instead, we will uncover the hidden internal architecture that dictates how they think, feel, and interact with the world. You will learn why a mind that can solve quantum physics might struggle to choose a brand of coffee. You'll understand the profound loneliness that can accompany seeing things no one else does. And by the end, you'll see why that initial question about anxiety isn't just a hook, but the key to unlocking the entire puzzle of the genius mind. This journey will change the way you think about intelligence forever. So stay with me as we decode the real signs of a 145-plus IQ mind. When psychologists talk about an extremely high IQ, around 145 or higher, they're describing a mind that is statistically rare and found in a tiny fraction of the population. But this video isn't about celebrating a score. It's about understanding a fundamentally different operating system for the brain. Forget the listicles of 10 habits of smart people that tell you they read a lot and wake up early. Those are behaviors, not the underlying architecture that produces them. So the central idea we're exploring is this. Genius isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about being unable to ignore the questions. It's a state of perpetual cognitive motion, a relentless need to deconstruct, connect, and understand. To truly grasp this, we are going to structure our journey around 4 foundational pillars. First, we'll explore their unique cognitive architecture, the hardware of their brain. Second, we'll dive into their emotional landscape, uncovering that paradox of anxiety we hinted at. Third, we'll look at their motivational drivers, the fuel that powers their relentless curiosity. And finally, we'll analyze their social operating system, explaining why their brilliance is so often misunderstood in everyday life. This framework will give you a complete, cohesive picture of the high IQ mind. And for those of you who want to sharpen your own thinking, stick around. Later in the video, I'll share 3 practical techniques inspired by these pillars that you can use to cultivate genius-level thinking patterns in your own life. This journey is not just about observing genius, it's about learning from it. Let's begin with the very foundation of how they see the world, their cognitive architecture. The first and most fundamental pillar of the high IQ mind is its cognitive architecture. This isn't about having more memory or a faster processor, but about running a completely different kind of software. At its core are 2 interconnected abilities: hyper-developed pattern recognition and a preference for abstract thinking. Most people think in concrete terms, focusing on the specific details of a situation right in front of them. They see a tree, a car, a house. A mind wired for genius, however, automatically abstracts up from the details to see the underlying system. They don't just see a tree, they see a node in an ecosystem, a data point in a climate cycle, a chapter in an evolutionary story. This is what we mean by seeing the matrix. They aren't just looking at the code, they're perceiving the structure of the program itself. This constant pattern matching allows them to connect seemingly unrelated ideas with breathtaking speed. Think of a chess grandmaster playing 20 games at once. They aren't memorizing every single piece on every board. Instead, they recognize patterns, chunks of information that represent a certain strategic state. The high IQ mind does this with everything, from conversations to economic trends to social dynamics. It's like seeing the recipe, not just the cake. While most of us taste the final product and say, "This is delicious," they are deconstructing the ingredients, the ratios, the baking temperature, and the chemical reactions. This is why they often arrive at solutions that seem to come from nowhere. They've skipped the linear, step-by-step thinking because their brain has already mapped the entire system and identified the most efficient path. Most people see the chess pieces. They see the entire board, including the games being played on the tables next to them. The physicist Richard Feynman was a master of this. He wasn't just solving equations. He was famous for his ability to visualize complex physics problems using simple, intuitive diagrams. He was translating hyper-complex, abstract systems into patterns he could literally see and manipulate. This ability to see the invisible architecture of reality is their greatest cognitive strength. It allows them to build revolutionary theories, create groundbreaking art, and design world-changing technologies. They process reality with a depth and dimensionality that is simply unavailable to most people. This is the engine of genius. But this incredible processing power comes at a cost, one that is rarely talked about. This leads us to our second pillar, the emotional landscape. If the cognitive architecture is the superpower, the emotional landscape is the kryptonite. Remember that mind that sees patterns everywhere? The one that abstracts up from the tree to the entire ecosystem? Well, that same mechanism doesn't just see positive connections and elegant systems. It also sees every potential point of failure, every logical inconsistency, every possible negative outcome, and every existential threat with terrifying clarity. This is why a link is often observed between high intelligence and a higher predisposition to anxiety disorders and existential dread. Their greatest strength, seeing everything, is also the source of their deepest anxieties. Imagine going to the grocery store to buy cereal. For most people, it's a simple choice based on taste or price. For the mind prone to overanalysis, it becomes a multivariable calculation. They're calculating price per ounce, analyzing nutritional labels for long-term health effects, considering the ethical implications of the supply chain, and modeling the probability of getting tired of the flavor before the box is empty. What results is decision paralysis, a state of being overwhelmed by too much data. This constant analysis applies to everything, from social interactions to global news, leading to a state of hyper-awareness that can be mentally exhausting. Beyond anxiety, there's another profound emotional challenge: intellectual loneliness. When you perceive the world through a lens of systems and abstractions, it can be incredibly difficult to find others who speak your language. They might try to share a fascinating connection they've made between two disparate fields, only to be met with blank stares or a quick change of subject. This isn't because others are unintelligent, it's because their brains are simply not primed to prioritize that kind of information. Over time, this can lead to a sense of profound alienation, a feeling of being a tourist in your own culture. They may feel they have to dumb themselves down or constantly translate their thoughts into a more socially acceptable, concrete form. This constant self-editing is tiring and can prevent the formation of genuine, deep connections. So, while their mind is a powerful tool for understanding the universe, it can also be a cage that isolates them from the simple, messy, and beautiful experience of human connection. The very thing that makes them extraordinary also makes them feel extraordinarily alone. If you've ever felt that your own mind works a bit differently, or if that feeling of seeing too much resonates with you, you are in the right place. We explore topics like this every single week, diving deep into the psychology of how we think and live. So consider subscribing to join the conversation and our community of curious minds. So we have a powerful cognitive engine and a complex, often turbulent emotional world. But what actually drives this mind forward? This leads us to the third pillar, their unique motivational drivers. Psychologists often distinguish between two types of motivation, extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic motivation comes from the outside, things like money, promotions, fame, or praise. Intrinsic motivation comes from within, the joy and satisfaction of the activity itself. While everyone is a mix of both, the high IQ mind is overwhelmingly powered by intrinsic goals. The primary reward is not the prize at the end, but the process of solving the puzzle. This is often misinterpreted as a lack of ambition in the conventional sense. They might not be interested in climbing the corporate ladder if the work at the top is less intellectually stimulating than their current role. This is driven by a state of intellectual restlessness. Their minds are built for complexity and pattern seeking, so they experience simplicity and repetition as a form of intense boredom, almost like a kind of pain. They need to be fed a constant diet of new problems to solve and new systems to understand. This is why their curiosity isn't just a casual interest, it's an insatiable hunger. They don't just wonder about things, they are compelled to take them apart, see how they work, and put them back together in a new way. Consider Leonardo da Vinci, a quintessential example of this motivational structure. He was a master painter, but he spent countless hours dissecting human bodies, designing flying machines, and studying the flow of water. Most of these pursuits brought him no fame or fortune in his lifetime. His reward was the understanding itself. His famous notebooks are not a collection of finished thoughts, but a raw, unfiltered record of a mind obsessed with figuring things out. This intrinsic drive is what allows them to persevere through the years of thankless work required for any true breakthrough. They are not working for Friday's paycheck. They are working to satisfy a deep internal need to resolve the unanswered question, to complete the pattern, to make the system make sense. This is the fire that keeps the cognitive engine running at full throttle. So we have this intrinsically motivated, pattern-seeing mind that feels emotions with great intensity. How does a mind like this actually navigate the social world? This brings us to our fourth and final pillar, the social operating system. This is where their internal traits manifest as external behaviors, and it's a major source of misunderstanding. The high IQ mind values efficiency and depth above all else. This is why they often have a strong aversion to small talk. To them, conversations about the weather or weekend plans feel like using a supercomputer to run a simple calculator app. It's a profound waste of processing power. They crave high-bandwidth information exchange, discussions about systems, ideas, and theories. This preference for efficiency leads to a communication style that can be perceived as blunt, direct, or even arrogant. Imagine a meeting where someone is presenting a flawed plan. Many people will soften their feedback, saying things like, "That's an interesting start. Maybe we could also consider." The high IQ individual, having already mentally mapped the plan and seen its 5 critical failure points, might just say, "This won't work because X, Y, and Z." They aren't trying to be rude, they are trying to be helpful in the most efficient way possible by jumping directly to the core of the problem. What looks like arrogance is often just an allergy to inefficiency. This creates a constant social dilemma. They see the fastest path to a solution, but to explain it, they must either take a slower, more socially acceptable route or risk being seen as abrasive. This constant friction leads many to face what can be called the social trilemma. Their choices are often to isolate themselves to avoid the friction, to conform by masking their true thought processes, which is exhausting, or to remain authentic and be constantly misunderstood. None of these options is ideal, which explains why many highly intelligent individuals cultivate a small, tight-knit circle of friends who get it and may prefer solitude to draining social performance. Their social world is not defined by a lack of social skills, but by a cost-benefit analysis, where the cost of typical social interaction often outweighs the perceived benefit. So, how can we apply all this? Here's the good news. While you can't change your base IQ, you can absolutely adopt the thinking tools and mental models that geniuses use. Let's look at 3 techniques inspired by our pillars. First, from Pillar 1, practice first principles thinking. Instead of accepting things as they are, break them down to their most fundamental, undeniable truths. What are we absolutely sure is true here? This deconstructs assumptions and allows you to rebuild your understanding from the ground up, often revealing innovative solutions. Second, to cultivate pattern recognition, start system mapping. Pick any topic you're interested in, a company, a hobby, a news story, and draw it out. Who are the players? What are the inputs and outputs? What are the rules? What are the feedback loops? Stop trying to memorize facts. Start trying to map the systems behind them. This practice trains your brain to automatically look for underlying structures in everything you encounter. Third, to foster the intrinsic motivation of Pillar 3, use scheduled curiosity. Set aside 30 minutes each week to learn about something you are genuinely curious about, with no practical goal in mind. Follow the rabbit hole wherever it leads. This rewards your brain's natural desire to learn and builds the habit of learning for its own sake, which is the engine of creativity and insight. These aren't magic tricks, they are mental habits that over time can fundamentally change the way you process the world. Today, we've journeyed deep into the psychology of the extremely intelligent mind. We saw that it's not just a list of habits, but an interconnected system. It starts with a unique cognitive architecture, the ability to see the world as a web of abstract patterns. This powerful hardware produces a complex emotional landscape where the ability to see everything leads to a profound sense of anxiety and loneliness. This system is fueled by powerful motivational drivers, an intrinsic need to solve puzzles and understand, not for external reward. And all of this manifests in a unique social operating system, one that prioritizes efficiency and depth, often leading to social misunderstanding. So we can now return to our original question. Is anxiety a sign of genius? Not always, but we can now see that for a certain type of mind, the anxiety isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's the logical byproduct of a mind that is wide open to the terrifying, beautiful, and infinite complexity of reality. Ultimately, understanding this psychology isn't about idolizing a high IQ score. It's about recognizing that there are many different ways for a mind to be brilliant. It's about having compassion for those whose gifts come with hidden burdens. And most importantly, it's about being inspired to cultivate the most powerful aspects of this mindset within ourselves. Thank you for taking this deep dive with me today. If you found this analysis valuable, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more content that goes beyond the surface. I have a question for you. Which of these 4 pillars or specific traits resonated most with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. I read as many as I can.